Sword and Fairy, Together Forever, is the 7th mainline game, well, really the 9th, in a long-running Chinese RPG series. The game originally launched on PC as The Legend of Sword and Fairy 7, before having its name changed to Sword and Fairy, Together Forever, for the console release, presumably not to scare anyone away. Set in a mythological China, Sword and Fairy, Together Forever follows the tale of an impending war between human, deity and demon tribes, and despite a few bugs and some dodgy translations, it's also good fun. As Yi Qinshu, a disciple of the Ming-Shu sect, you're pulled into this world-changing event when a demon kidnaps a chosen child, which she happens to save. Before long, she's saddled with a deity, given a task in the human world, and has to unravel the history of her own sect. She has to do this while dealing with the treacherous shenanigans of others, all with their own plans for the child, and all the while helping just about everyone else she encounters. Thankfully, Yi Qinshu isn't on her own. Familiar spirits, companions, and the deity, Shi Wu, are there to lend a helping hand. When you consider its basic structure, Together Forever is a massive action RPG that takes its inspiration from ancient myths and legends to create its world. From small villages to ice-locked lands, from titanic pagodas to gorgeous schools, Together Forever transports you through diverse locales to tell its character-driven story. There's a sense of epic scale to the tale, not merely in the locations, but also the plot, the lore, and the character histories. The game is chock full of cutscenes to watch and dialogue to listen to, or read, as there's no English dub. And there are also plenty of codex entries that provide further insight into the world. In short, Together Forever is an RPG rich in world building and lore, whose mythological roots go a long way to make the game stand out from many other similar RPGs. You initially begin the game with just Yi Qinshu, but before long you amass a party to help you on your way. As with every RPG, locations hide plenty of items to pick up, monsters to fight, and side quests to take on, some of which require you to travel to other locations to finish them. Some are nice and simple, while others will task you with multiple objectives to complete. Almost all of them are worth doing, and the best of them add more depth to the world and reveal the Ming-Shu sect history. Together Forever also distinguishes itself in its combat, which plays out like a simpler Devil May Cry style hack-and-slash title. Combat features both ground and aerial combo-based attacks that are nice and simple to pull off, requiring only a mix of light attacks, heavy attacks, jumping and dodging. Each character plays differently, even if the combo patterns remain the same. Each character also has some special powers and a super combo for those really rough moments. Yi Qinshu employs spirit familiars that can be called on to attack, while Shi Wu can rain down spirit swords. Bai Mo King is the magic user of the group, with weak basic attacks, but her special abilities, such as calling down a tornado that sweeps across the battlefield, do massive damage. And naturally, as you level up, you'll unlock new special abilities for everyone to use. A nice touch is that you can change up the party leader at any time and swap between characters on the fly, both in and out of battle, though there are moments when you're expected to use a specific character for story reasons. The combat animations for the characters are wonderful as well, which highlights the different playstyles. Yi Qinshu flows between her attacks, while Bai Mo King is slower but methodical as she casts discrete spells. Now there's the usual assortment of weapons, armor, and items to collect or buy. Those weapons can be upgraded a limited number of times, and Yi's spirit familiars can also be leveled up by feeding them specific foods. There's also a limited cooking system that imbues you with perks for a short time. Oh, and for those who like to play dress-up, you can swap characters in and out of different outfits too. I'd argue scouring the environment is quite important, as not everything that's collectible will be highlighted until you're at close range, and you could just as easily pick up a new accessory as you could a vegetable for cooking. For lorehounds, the world is chock full of books to collect or buy from friendly monsters. It's worth paying attention to what you've read and heard, because you never know when a pop quiz will appear. If that's still not enough for you, you can also take part in various minigames, including a card-based battler and, more interestingly for me, a series of platforming challenges. If you want to just take a moment to chill and appreciate the scenery, you can also jump into the game's fairly robust photo mode. Now, Together Forever sports a nice variety of locales, most of which are rather pretty to look at, and they work well with the photo mode. Character models, at least for the main characters, are fantastically detailed and animated, as are the many monsters. Most NPCs look alright, but they clearly don't share the same level of visual fidelity. The sound design is also generally fantastic, with some wonderful instrumental music providing either calming ambience or an exciting battle track. Most of the dialogue is fully voiced, and the actors do a great job of conveying emotion, even if I was relying on subtitles to understand. There is, however, a notable divide in the visuals, depending on which platform you're playing on. I spent most of my playtime on the PS4 version, with a limited amount of time on the PS5 version, and, unfortunately, there's enough of a difference, not just in visuals but also in mechanics, that it makes it worth discussing. The most obvious issue is that the PS4 version uses low-resolution textures in several areas and a lower foliage density that makes some areas, such as the Swallow Valley, look strangely barren. Additionally, in certain areas, shadows were disabled on characters. However, in several later scenes, the PS4 still sported gorgeous-looking foliage, water bodies, and scenery, making it feel as though some areas actually got more love than others before final release. In general, the PS5 version looks noticeably sharper, and that higher level of foliage density makes several areas look lush in comparison, with far more screen space reflections present too. Oh, and that aforementioned area without shadows, all present and accounted for on the PS5. Now, mechanically, combat is also smoother on the PS5, owing to the higher and more stable frame rate. The PS4 version of the game suffers from input lag at times, which could break the flow of combos and attack strings. Now, on both platforms, there were a couple bugs I noticed during my playthrough. Sometimes enemies would just run straight through the scenery during fights, and sometimes they'd spawn beneath the world floor, but thankfully none of them were game-breaking. So, to wrap up, Sword and Fairy Together Forever does have an issue with translation quality that can be wonky at times. But if, like me, you're a fan of Chinese Wuxia, cinema and fantasy, and used to sub content, you'll likely excuse the game's slightly dodgy translations. You'll also be right at home with the game's story, humour, and epic scope that channels the spirit of those movies faithfully, and bar the occasional head-scratching conversation, the experience really does shine. So despite a few bugs and visual issues, Sword and Fairy Together Forever is a fantastic action RPG whose mythology and setting really help it stand out from the crowd. Throw in a fast and fun DMC-light combat system, a great story, fun characters, and wonderful environments to explore, and you have an excellent RPG highly worth sinking your time into.